views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime. Today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough, as well as across New York City. Coming up on today's show, we go front and center discussing the importance and benefits of value-based care. What exactly is value-based care? We'll explain a little later on in the show. Then a little later, we'll learn about the COVID-19 pandemic's toll on attendance for students in shelters. And then we'll talk about virtual events supporting Bronx businesses. We'll give you some more details if you hang on a little later on. And then also, we'll learn about a not-for-profit organization committed to providing seniors with the opportunity to remain engaged and connected through exemplary programs. And then finally, we'll discuss the films being highlighted in this year's African Diaspora International Film Festival. So we got a whole lot coming up for you today, so stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello everyone, I'm Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, November the 10th, and you're watching Open, a live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV sets. We also want to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is being broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. You can stay connected to us on our website at bronxnet.org, and of course, our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. Well, a lot has been going on through the course of the past week. We can't take you through everything, but we'll take you through a couple of things with our Bronx updates. We start off with COVID-19 news. U.S. health officials gave the final sign-off for children to get the Pfizer COVID-19 shot, which is a major expansion of the nation's vaccination campaign. Now, the Food and Drug Administration already authorized the shots for children ages 5 to 11, with doses just a third of the amount given to teens and adults. However, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, formally recommends who should receive FDA-cleared vaccines. Now, President Joe Biden called the decision, quote, a turning point. The president stated, quote, it will allow parents to end months of anxious worrying about their kids and reduce the extent to which children spread the virus to others. It's a major step forward for our nation and our fight to defeat the virus. Well, in other news, the Bronx People's Festival brought over 300 Bronxites to the Mary Mitchell Center courtyard for a day of civic engagement. Our BronxNet reporter, Sanji Lopez, was there, and she brings us a story right now.
Music, healing, food, and community were all part of the Bronx-wide coalition's Bronx People's Festival. The event brought over 300 Bronxites to the Mary Mitchell Center courtyard for a day of community learning and planning, civic engagement, and family-friendly activities.
Today's festival is to get ideas from the community. This is a borough-wide effort to think about what kind of Bronx we want, what kind of Bronx we need, and what kind of Bronx we're going to fight for.
The Bronx-wide coalition is made up of local residents and nearly 30 community, faith, and labor organizations who have been meeting virtually since the pandemic. This was the group's first in-person event in the hopes of engaging more community members in brainstorming and creating a 30-year economic development plan for the Bronx.
So we're really excited to come out to the community today, get their ideas for their vision, their dreams, their hopes, and what we're going to demand for the Bronx of the future.
What I'm here to do is to listen, to engage with community members and engage with the organizations and discuss what are some of the problems that we have, what are some of the solutions that are possible, and how we can partner together to make them a reality.
The goal of the event was to help community members learn, plan, and share ideas throughout different sectors, including health, housing, energy, and more. Bronxites also had an opportunity to get engaged in upcoming elections and even made space to reflect on the past year through healing stations.
Our borough has been through so much, from COVID and through historical trauma. We need a place to heal and recognize what we've lost, but also remember what we're building.
Visit linktree/BXPower to learn more about the Bronx-wide coalition, get engaged with their 30-year plan, and to stay tuned for future events. Reporting for BronxNet, Sanji Lopez.
And thank you, Sanji. Looks like a good time was had by all. That is all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We want you to stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Open continues coming up right after this. Welcome back to the show. Emblem Health is one of the nation's largest not-for-profit health insurers, and they released its findings in a national survey of what value-based care means to patients as well as consumers. Now, the national study found only 1 in 4 consumers are aware of the term value-based care, and the results are a call to action for healthcare professionals and policy leaders. Joining us now to share more details is the Chief Medical Officer at AdvantageCare, physician, Dr. Navarra Rodriguez. And Dr. Rodriguez, good to have you.
Thank you, Daren, and hello to everyone and all of the viewers. I'm proud to be here as President and Chief Medical Officer of AdvantageCare Physicians, which is part of the Emblem Health family of companies. I do think it's very important for patients, consumers, to understand a little bit more about value-based care, why there's so much emphasis on it now, and what it means to them overall. I'm a primary care provider. I practice in Washington Heights. And so I think it's critical for our communities to understand how to get better value, better care, and do that in partnership with their providers.
So give me this now, because you had the term value-based care, and I said it from the intro. A lot of people don't even know what value-based care is. So what is the definition of value-based care?
Well, I like to think about it as being able to deliver high quality care and deliver great outcomes to patients and populations and communities in a cost-effective way, so that by following clinical guidelines, by understanding cost of treatments and impact of treatments, we can make better choices and better decisions together with patients to ensure that there are healthier outcomes. This ties back to being able to educate patients about conditions and treatments, to detect conditions like diabetes early, to intervene early with some conditions, and then to be able to deliver cost-effective treatments in order to manage chronic conditions and make sure that there are healthier outcomes. For example, a diabetic, being able to screen for high blood sugars early on in a patient's condition is important. To be able to deliver and prescribe cost-effective medications to manage that diabetes can then help prevent bad outcomes like blindness or kidney failure leading to dialysis, or vascular disease that can lead to amputations, costly treatments overall, and poorer outcomes for patients. By being able to focus on value and quality upfront in partnership with patients, we can ensure those outcomes are better so that patients have healthier, more productive lives.
And when we talk about the importance of value-based care, obviously better outcomes are there, and that's one of the main things, but also cost containment. So when we talk about cost containment, how does that work?
Yeah, we hear quite often how expensive our healthcare system is. And we know that based on best practices, there are cost-effective ways to manage conditions. For example, if a patient needs a medication for hypertension, there could be a brand name medication or a generic one that work effectively and equally as well. But for a patient to take the generic, it may mean a lower copay at the pharmacy and may mean better adherence to that medication as opposed to the brand name. So thinking about the cost of care and making good financial choices so that there's less burden to a patient, but less burden to the healthcare system overall.
And so for people who want to find out more information and really about how to do this and how to be connected in this kind of way, what's the best option for them?
Well, I think it's important for patients to have conversations with their providers, to ask about cost of care and quality and protocols and best practices. Those are simple questions that patients will have. For example, at AdvantageCare physicians, our gastroenterologists do screening colonoscopies in office because we follow strict guidelines and standards. We're accredited by national institutions to do this well. What many patients don't know is that it's as high quality and more cost effective to have that screening colonoscopy, screening for colon cancer, done in an office than a hospital-based setting. So for patients to ask questions to their providers about the cost of treatment, treatment options, and how to be able to think about healthcare prevention and screening more productively will help us deliver value-based care more effectively.
And so I know part of the conversation is talking about moving from volume to actually value. So how do you make that happen?
Well, you have to have alignment between payers or insurance companies and providers of healthcare. So hospitals, doctors, and nurse practitioners, and other healthcare service providers. They have to be aligned in agreement that delivering better healthcare outcomes can overall reduce healthcare costs down the line. So focusing on early prevention and intervention and treatment can prevent costly treatments later on and ultimately deliver those better outcomes. So for doctors to have value-based agreements and arrangements with insurance companies like Emblem Health, which is forward-thinking in terms of value-based care, we can make sure that doctors, providers are working with those insurance companies or with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid to effectively deliver high quality care to our patient bases, but also keep those individuals and communities healthier.
Yeah. And so we talk a little bit more about the consumer, really having a conversation with the provider. But let's be honest. I mean, just navigating this whole healthcare system is, for some people, it's like going through the encyclopedia. It's just really rough. You just don't know. So what are some of the best ways that really consumers can really bridge that gap with providers to get to the place of having this best value-based care?
Well, I think it is a difficult system to navigate, but being open and asking questions is very important. So as patients come to AdvantageCare physicians, we welcome questions about cost of care, cost of medications, about having a care plan that incorporates how to look at best outcomes and cost effectiveness and best quality. And to have those honest conversations and so that patients know what their options are and what that financial and quality impact may be. It's a good telling sign when a provider talks to patients about prevention quite a bit so that those patients know that provider is really thinking about ensuring that that patient has good outcomes. When providers talk about medication adherence and cost of medication and encourage paths and care plans that are cost effective and high quality, and will speak about best practices, those are also telling signs that that provider or that individual is focused on value-based care. But a simple question also, just ask your provider, your PCP, your specialist, what is value-based care and how can I make sure that I'm getting better quality and better outcomes?
Well, Dr. Rodriguez, I want to thank you so much for being with us and sharing with us. I think more people will get a little bit of insight into what value-based care means, and hopefully, as we talked about, they'll ask the right questions. So, Dr. Rodriguez, thank you so much for being with us here on Open.
Thank you.
All righty. We want our viewers to know if you want more information, always visit the website at emblemhealth.com, and there you can find out more about what we've just talked about. We've got more show. Encourage you, don't go anywhere. Open continues coming up right after this. And welcome back to the show. Advocates for Children of New York recently released a new policy brief documenting the pandemic's heavy reality on the toll of school attendance for students living in homeless shelters. Now, the policy is calling on New York City Department of Education to direct federal COVID-19 relief dollars to overhaul the education support system in shelters, starting with hiring 150 shelter-based DOE community coordinators. Joining us now to tell more details is the bilingual case advocate of the learners in the temporary housing project at the Advocates for Children of New York, Anasofia Trelles. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And so as we look at this here, certainly children, and particularly in shelters, we didn't really necessarily pay particular attention during this pandemic, but I know it's front and center for the work that you do. So let us know a little bit about your findings.
Yeah, so our report shows that students in temporary or students in shelter particularly had significantly lower rates in attendance last academic school year, particularly during the months of January through June. They had lower attendance rates than any other student group. And depending on the month, the attendance rate trailed 11 to 14 percentage points behind permanently housed students. Our report also shows that the attendance rates for students at the high school level who are in shelter is actually significantly worse than other students. So 10th graders living in shelter missed more than 1 out of 3 days in the winter and spring of last school year, and 9th, 11th, and 12th graders were absent well over a quarter of the year.
And so when we look at this, obviously some startling statistics there. As these numbers become more and more available, what's the reaction been like?
Yeah, I mean, this is alarming. This is not something that we take lightly, and I think more attention needs to be focused on this. And this is not a new issue, which is the more concerning part, is that the pandemic definitely exacerbated some of the issues for students in shelter, but they are not new. So barriers to attendance have been an issue for the last 2 academic school years, and we've actually seen some archives that talk about how this is an issue for several years now. So
Anasofia, given this information and what we have and what we know, where do we go from here?
So we're calling on the Department of Education to hire 150 community coordinators based in shelter to address some of the issues, barriers to attendance for students and families in shelter. So they would be working directly with families to provide supports like special education supports, transportation, connecting them with after school programming, mental health services, just to make sure that students are attending school regularly and don't have any outstanding educational needs.
Yeah. And so when we look at students in shelters, obviously there were a lot of, a lot of challenges they have pre-pandemic. Has the pandemic itself really further exacerbated this?
Yeah, so when we look at the reports, we definitely see a slight difference between students who were attending school remotely and in person. So students who were just attending school remotely had a slightly less attendance rate than students who were hybrid. But like I mentioned, this is not a new issue. And it's just, even this year when students are all in person, we're still seeing that students in shelter have lower attendance rates than their permanently housed peers.
So when you talk about the fact that you're calling for increased funding, that money coming from the federal government and other institutions, what's the response been like as you continue to raise the alarm?
Yeah, so we're thankful that the Department of Education has been receptive to our past policy asks. So they did hire more shelter-based social workers, but it's not enough. And so we're really asking that, especially in the wake of the pandemic, that there needs to be additional support and that students in shelter have access to somebody on site to help them with their educational needs.
So as we look around, we see a lot of people who are saying, today is the day that we really need to be paying more attention to really getting the word out and getting the word out in regards to those people who've been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And we know that when it comes to students in shelters, obviously they're at the forefront right now as virtue of this conversation. How do you see things really playing out over the course of the school year right now, given the fact that we're back into this educational learning environment and the way to go?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're still seeing the similar trend of chronic absenteeism for students in shelter. So we know that in the beginning of the school year, students in shelter had a lower attendance rate than students who are permanently housed. It was about 73% compared to 87% of students attending citywide. We know that this is an issue that continues to persist. And part of that is because there are so many barriers to attendance. We know that, there were many issues with transportation at the start of the school year, and just many other issues that continue to persist.
So for you, what does your work consist of now that you're continuing to really lay the groundwork for a case to be made that there's this need out there? Where does your work take you now?
Yeah, so Learners in Temporary Housing, our project at Advocates for Children, really does direct casework. So we work directly with families who are being affected by some of these barriers to attendance and help escalate those cases. We also do policy advocacy. So we are very interested in continuing to share some of these data points and urge the city to really, again, hire these community-based coordinators and just continue focusing on the education of students in temporary housing, because without access to a quality education, they can't break the cycle of poverty and homelessness.
Yeah. Do you see things getting better on the horizon?
There's a new administration, there's new hope. So we're really hopeful that we can, spread the word and that change is coming.
Yeah, well, certainly for people who want more information now, what do they do in terms of supporting the work that you've got going on, particularly raising their voice in agreement with your advocacy?
Absolutely. So we actually have a info line that anybody can call. We operate Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if there are any families who are experiencing any kind of educational issues, particularly families in shelter is what my project is interested in, but we do a range of services, so special education needs, services for English language learners. They can definitely feel free to call our info line and we can connect them with supports. Or we also get calls from folks who just want to know how to get involved, and we're happy to have those calls as well.
Anasofia, Trelles, thank you so much for being with us here on Open and the work that you're doing and advocating for children in shelters. Thanks much.
Thank you so much.
All righty. We want our viewers to know if you want more information, visit the website at advocatesforchildren.org. And don't forget about them on Instagram and also on Twitter at AFC New York. We do have more show. Don't go anywhere. Open is coming up. right after this.
If you're struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311. That's 833-511-0311.
And welcome back to the show. The Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership is an independent not-for-profit organization supporting economic development through entrepreneurship. Now, their mission is to eradicate the systemic barriers preventing access to the knowledge, networks, and capital required for entrepreneurial success and wealth creation. And due to the support of the Bronx Community Foundation, the organization is holding a virtual hands-on support event for Bronx business owners. Joining us and telling us more details is the Chief Executive Officer at the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership, Jill L. Johnson. And Jill, good to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on, and especially at a time like this. And when we talk about small business, of course, the lifeblood of America, and particularly more so here in New York City. I know that you've got a hands-on approach in trying to enhance small businesses, go to that next level.
Absolutely. And, what we're really focused on is increasing small businesses' capacity to grow. Well, first of all, let's say to survive, because as you just said, it has been a tough time for sure. But it's been a tough time for a lot of small businesses for a long time, and they've been in survival mode. We want to try to change that dynamic from going from survival to actually thriving and growing, so that these businesses are creating jobs and they're building wealth in the communities that they serve.
Yeah. And so here you are, and you've got this virtual workshop that's taking place. And I understand you've got what's called the hackathon. The hackathon, right. So for business owners, an opportunity to really connect and really drill down on a few things.
Yeah, and let me clarify. This is not a workshop in the traditional sense. This is really a roll up your sleeves, let's get it done. We know that there's a lot of information that's out there, but it's how you apply that information that makes the difference. And so what we're doing through these small business hackathon events, and they are virtual, as you said, we are pairing small business owners with people who are experts, who do that work for a living: financial projections, social media marketing, driving traffic to your website, and looking at the competitive landscape to help you better compete. We're bringing people to the table who are volunteering their time. So business owners do not have to pay anything. They sign up, they show up, and they will get the help that they need.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges that you see when it comes to business owners in navigating post-pandemic?
Well, oftentimes, Daren, it is about just trying to figure out how to do things differently. So many business owners were actually not even online pre-pandemic. The pandemic has forced people to get digital ready and to try to find new customers and new audiences that they just weren't serving previously. So being online is a big thing. We also know that many people have been applying for the various loans through the government, as well as for grants. Well, Many of those require that you have your financials in order. That has been a huge issue. Business owners not understanding their financials and not being able to produce those documents.
And so as this hackathon takes place, obviously people have the opportunity to get the much needed resources that are out there. What is your hope and the takeaway after they have this experience?
What we want them to do, Daren, is to really take advantage of this opportunity to get help one-on-one. This is not, again, a traditional workshop. You're not just sitting in listening to information. This is where you have access to an expert to help you one-on-one. We send you into your own breakout room, and one-on-one, you are able to get the help that you need. So again, it's real hands-on, tangible support to help you move your business forward.
And we talked a little bit about the pandemic before, Jill, and the fact of how it's affected so many people. But there is pandemic relief that's out there for small businesses, correct?
Yes, there are a lot of programs, again, to get access to information. There are many grant opportunities that are out there. Many companies are making grant dollars available to small businesses. But what you need to do is, again, to get this one-on-one help to make sure that you are ready and to make sure that you're using all the information that's available to really implement that in your business to grow.
And for our viewers, take a moment and just share a little bit more about your organization and the work that you actually do.
Yeah, well, I have to say, this is the work that we do. This is where we have our expertise. It is providing that high touch, hands-on capacity building support to help businesses grow. So in general, we work with small business owners through our Small Businesses Need Us program. We have a program for women of color who have the potential to grow, scale, and exit. That's our Women of Color Connecting program. And we have a program to introduce people to angel investing and what that is all about. So those are our 3 program focus areas. But at the end of the day, it is all about helping small businesses to get to that next level.
Yeah. And as we look to the future, obviously, give me a little bit of your prognosis of what do you see happening as far as small businesses. We know that they're definitely on the recovery side of the COVID-19 pandemic. Do we see a lot of businesses being able to make that turn, given the fact that some have had to close their doors and others have really had to make some real serious cuts, and we've got staffing shortages all across America? Do you think the small business will see a quick rebound?
I don't know about a quick rebound. And, again, I think that small business owners in Black and brown communities have been struggling for a long time. So when you say rebound, I'm not quite sure what that means for those communities. I think that in the communities that we serve, what we're trying to do is to get people to recognize this as an opportunity. Yes, it has certainly had its challenges, but there are opportunities as well. There are more people shopping online than ever, more people that are ready to support small businesses, people that are more aware of the need to shop at small businesses. So there is a real opportunity. It's up to business owners, however, to really take advantage of it and to figure out how they operate differently, how they change business as usual.
Yeah. Well, Jill, I want to thank you so much for coming and being with us on the show. I think small businesses have an opportunity to go and grow. And I know that one of the biggest challenges that small businesses have are access to resources. We've heard that so many times here on our show. And thank you for providing those access to resources so that way our small businesses can not just grow, but thrive. Thank you so much, Jill.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And if I can just say that people can go and find out more about our resources at growmybronxbiz.org. That's growmybronxbiz.org.
All righty. And then also we want to let our viewers know too that if you want more information, we encourage you, please do us a favor, visit their website at wearifel.org. And then follow on social media at that very same name. All right, we've got more show coming up. Don't go anywhere. Open continues coming up right after this. welcome back. Research has proven social isolation has devastating effects, but the power of social connection can be transformative. Now, DOROT is a not-for-profit organization addressing the challenges of an aging population of more than actually 4,000 older adults, which the organization serves each year, who are homebound, homeless, or in need to be connected to their greater community. And joining us to tell more details is the Director of Connect Through Tech at DOROT, Lorraine Novack. And Lorraine, good to have you.
Good to be here, Daren. Thank you.
And really, there is this huge digital divide when it comes just to the average person, but when it comes to the life of a senior, it becomes even more a divisive thing. Talk to us a little bit about how you're bridging the gap with seniors, particularly in the area of technology.
Sure. So I think that there are a couple of different things that are important to think about when you think about that digital divide. The first is that sometimes it has to do with people owning the right kind of device. Sometimes it has to do with having connectivity to the internet, fast enough connectivity to the internet. And sometimes it has to do with skill set. And we all know that regardless of age, there are a lot of different things that can influence people's adoption of technology, their income, their native language, the kind of jobs that they've had, their level of education. So our goal at DOROT is to make sure that we are meeting people wherever they are. When people contact us and say that they would like to have help with technology, we ask them a series of questions so we understand what kind of device they have, what kind of connectivity they have, what do they already know, what are the goals that they have for their technology learning, and that's how we get everything started.
Yeah, and so after you get them started, they find out where they are. For a person who has little or no technology, say for instance, I really don't know anything, but I know I need to be technologically connected. How do you walk a person through that?
Yeah, so the first thing that we work with people to do, because right now a lot of our coaching is happening, or all of our coaching is happening remotely, meaning that we're doing it either over the phone or online. Once we've determined that people have the ability to connect with us through video chat, the first thing that we do is teach them how to use Zoom. So a volunteer calls the client on the telephone, and we'll walk them through the process of opening up their email, finding the link to the video meeting on Zoom, opening that link, and then walking them through the process of using Zoom for the first time. How do you activate your microphone? How do you turn on or off your camera? How do you use the chat feature? What happens when you share screen, and how do you do that? Once the older adult is comfortable with those steps, they're able to turn on their share screen. The volunteer and the older adult can then get off the telephone and have a session where the client is able to show exactly what's on their screen, and the volunteer is able to walk them through step by step to achieving whatever it is that they wanted to do, whether that's learning how to do email, or finish setting up a device, or learning how to use particular apps on their computer or their tablet or their phone. But that screen share is elemental to being able to have a successful session until we're able to resume visits into the home.
Yeah, and so share with us, like, if a person doesn't have technology, or I should say not even technology, but what if I'm short on internet? I'm a senior. What happens there?
So I think part of what we also do is sort of an education process. So if you're somebody who's not connected and not able to get onto the internet, part of what we might be able to help you do is get you referrals to organizations that will help you get connected. That might mean, working with something for low-income people so that there's a subsidy for your connection, or a lower price for your connection. But helping people to make those contact those resources so that they can take those steps. There's a very limited amount of things that people can do if what they want to use technology for is connecting to other people or connecting to resources that are practical for them. If they don't have that internet connection, if all they own is a device, it's very challenging for them to be able to take those steps forward. So our goal might not be for coaching, but to bring them to those resources that will get them connected to the internet.
Yeah. And how much are you finding that seniors are using the telehealth method? I know a lot of seniors sometimes say, I have a hard time with technology, but are you finding more and more seniors are now gravitating towards telehealth?
Yeah, I think that we've seen a huge shift in the use of technology by older adults for a variety of different fronts, and telehealth among them. We have definitely worked with a lot of healthcare partners that have expressed concern that over this last year, there were a lot of older adults who were foregoing medical treatment that they needed because they weren't familiar with telehealth. And if you're a late tech adopter, if you're someone not every older adult is not familiar with technology, right? There are plenty of people who can just hop onto the internet for the whatever they need and get it done. But for people who are not so familiar with that, if a particular portal at one hospital looks a certain way and a portal at another healthcare network looks a little bit differently, that can be really hard for someone who's just learning how to navigate those portals. So part of what DOROT did is we partnered with several other hospitals throughout the New York City area, New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell, NYU, Mount Sinai, Northwell, Memorial Sloan Kettering, and Hospital for Special Surgery. All of them joined us on a Zoom call that we offered out to the older adult community in New York. We gave them about a 30-minute overview on telehealth and how it works. And then people registered for the health network they were affiliated with, and they were moved into a breakout room that was hosted by that particular healthcare network, who then walked their audience through every step of the portal. How do you create an account? How do you log on and schedule an appointment? How do you find your test results? How do you email your doctor through the portal? So it was very, very specific to the individual portal that person might be using for their particular doctor.
Amazing, amazing. And so how does it work when you're a senior? You just reach out to you guys, or how does it go?
It's super easy. All you need to do is either call us on the telephone. Your listeners can reach us at 917-441-3706. They can also email us at technologyhelp@dorotusa.org. They'll be in contact with one of our very friendly program administrators who will walk them through the entire process. There's no charge for any of these services. We will connect you to either resources that you need outside of DOROT, or we will connect you to one of our trained volunteers who will work with you as many times as you need. The visits usually last about an hour. And we start wherever you want to start, and we'll take you wherever you want to go. So for some people, that's, a single visit and they get what they need. And for other people, sometimes they just keep coming back. We have people that are doing this, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times, often working with the same volunteer, which I think is a great, not only a social connection in and of itself, but it allows the learning to become a lot easier because you're working in a very trusting, friendly relationship.
And I gotta get you to talk before we leave about University Without Walls.
Love to. So University Without Walls is another program run by DOROT. We know that there are a lot of older adults who either choose not to participate in programming at this time on site or on Zoom. Not everybody has that capability, as we've been talking about. So University Without Walls has been running telephone programs for almost 40 years. People will register with us for a variety of different programs. We keep our groups very, very small. The fact that there isn't visual cues for the attendees or for the facilitator necessitates that these be kind of small, personal, intimate groups. So we cap our participation at 15 people. We do about 25 programs a week. They each last 50 minutes. Some of the things that your listeners might be able to do with us this week include having a book discussion on a very specific novel with one of our partners at the NYP Library. We are also hosting something with the Guggenheim Museum, where they're going to be exploring different portraits that their collection holds. We send out materials before the program begins, so everyone at home has something that they can page through and be able to see the actual portraits under discussion. We have a 6-session series that's underway that's exploring how the Supreme Court is addressing matters of religious freedom during this particular court cycle. So there's a little bit of something for everybody.
Awesome. Lorraine, gotta thank you for being with us and sharing, and hopefully some seniors will get connected and take advantage of these much needed services. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
And we thank you for allowing us to share all of this with your listeners. This is a great opportunity. Thanks so much, Daren.
So much. Thank you. All right, that's Lorraine. And want to let you know, for more information, we encourage you to visit the website at DOROTUSA.org and then follow them on social media at DOROTUSA. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. We got more open coming up right after this.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, and they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community
and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
Reporting Bronx, this is Trelles.
Welcome back. The African Diaspora International Film Festival is presenting films to diverse audiences, redesigning the Black cinema experience and strengthening the role of African and African descent directors in contemporary world cinema. Now, due to continued crisis linked to the COVID-19 pandemic, the festival is being held both in person and online in the tri-state area in order to continue providing audiences with a rich and unique cultural experience to their audience. Now, joining us and sharing some details is the co-director and co-founder of the African Diaspora International Film Festival, Diarah and Dawa Spech, and also director of Betrayal of a Nation film, Brandi Webb, and director of the Right Near the Beach film, Gibrey Allen, and all welcome to the show, and glad to have you here on Open. And I'll start first with Diarah, as we are talking about this film festival, obviously an opportunity to highlight films really where African Americans have really laid a footprint in the world of cinema.
Absolutely, and I'm delighted to have the two guests with us this morning because they really represent a new generation of filmmakers that are part of the festival. Betrayal of a Nation is a film that's an indictment of American society and the treatment to which people of African descent have been subjected. And it's one of many films in the program that we have called World Black History that focuses on the history of Black experience of people of African descent all over the world. There are films from different parts of the world that present stories about our human experience. Right Near the Beach, I want to talk about it. It's a very sensitive and thoughtful reflection on what it means to be a young Black and gay in Jamaica. And it explores the various ways people respond to that reality. And it is also, to me, a film about memory and love between a son and a father. It's a film about reconciliation and for self and others. And it is one of several films that we have that explore the human experience of LGBTQ people. We have a film also from Kenya and another one from New Zealand that presents that reality. So we are very excited to have these two filmmakers, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about their work.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with Brandi and Betrayal of a Nation. For somebody who may not be so familiar, what was behind the making of Betrayal of a Nation?
Well, it all came down to, first off, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So Betrayal of a Nation came about because I was tired of the back-to-back shootings and of our Black brothers and sisters at the hands of state-sanctioned violence by police officers. And it got to the point where I just said, America has done so much harm to communities of color, and there has to be a way to hold them accountable. And I, as a filmmaker, naturally, I said, okay, I have to find a way to construct a film that can do this. And slowly the pieces of the puzzle started coming together. And next thing you know, I was indicting America on charges for crimes committed against citizens of color, everything from the beginning, stealing the land from the Native Americans, to slavery, to Jim Crow, pig laws, black codes, the Tuskegee experiment, up to the current state, police brutality and mass incarceration, and also exploring reparations. How do you repair a community that you've done so much harm to?
Right. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And for Gibrey, your film as well. Talk to us about the making of that.
Yes, thanks for having me. Really excited and happy to be here. Yeah, Right Near the Beach came out of a short film that I did called Excuses for Jeff. And that's an idea that I have of a young man going back to Jamaica from the U.S. for a friend's funeral. And when he's there, none of the other friends are around or showed up for the funeral. So he kind of invent these excuses for each of these friends because he just couldn't understand why wouldn't you not support your friend who has been brutally, killed for his choices. And I did a short film many years ago, and in doing that, I saw that story was bigger than myself who played that character going back, bigger than an actor trying to explore. That story had weight. It had meaning. There's a lot to that story. And so many years later, I decided to make a feature film and make it a lot more grounded and just speaking to issues of homophobia in Jamaica and try to take that and a different approach to the storytelling. After all of this damage is done, you're not only hurting this person, you're also damaging a family, a community. And that was kind of the birth and the nucleus of Right Near the Beach.
And so, Diarah, a little bit, you have these two wonderful, filmmakers here, and you've got a whole bunch more, but talk to us about this, because really, when we look at cultural context, that's very important, that people understand the culture, the history, and the fact that there's a lot of great talent and a lot of great stories that aren't always seen on mainstream films.
Yes, that's the role of the festival, really, is to bring together a set of films from all over the world that all have in common to explore the human experience of people of African descent and people of color in general. So when you attend the festival and you watch all these films, for example, besides Jamaica, we have other films from the Caribbean, like Haiti, Trinidad and Tobago, Martinique, Cuba. What you do is you really get a sense of our common reality. We have all been exposed to a certain level of discrimination, of land grabbing, whether it's in any part of the world, and we have to realize and understand that we have those common realities. I think the festival is a way for us to discuss and to exchange and to think and to build bridges across communities, because very often people don't realize, or they are put against one another rather than realize that we all share realities. And the festival is really a space for building community around those issues.
And so, Brandi, tell me about the takeaway. What are you hoping that people actually take away from your film?
Well, I'm hoping that people watch this film and they feel inspired and motivated to engage in civic action. I mean, we have a lot of work to be done, in our society. And I feel like if someone watches the film and they say, wow, like, one, they're educated, they're informed. And once you're informed, that's when you can begin to take action and start exploring your role in the society. My role as a filmmaker. Someone else's role may be to just be on the front lines out there protesting. Another person's role may be to make music for the movement. But I just hope that people overall just feel inspired to be civically engaged, because we have to really figure out how to stop oppression, right, in America. What can we do? I mean, there are great people out here right now doing that work, but it takes more. There's power in numbers. So I just want everyone to feel inspired and motivated after, first and foremost, being informed and educated.
Yeah, it's important. Gibrey, you get the same question. What do you want people to take away?
Yeah, conversation, having a conversation with family members. I feel, like particularly in Jamaica, it's almost like this thing is not happening with my community or my family. So it's not our issue. It's not ours to talk and debate and try to find some sort of and just, you know, talk amongst each other and trying to work out and come together as a country. And, you know, for that, I just want a conversation and, you know, hopefully, and, you know, that will blossom and help the country overall, you know, get out of this, you know, pretty terrible part of you know, or culture and politics and entertainment, you know, the homophobia, you know. I think overall a conversation is what I hope this film will start.
Well, certainly I want to thank you all for coming and sharing with us. And Diarah, thank you so much for putting these people on platform and getting an opportunity to see some great work from those that we may not traditionally get an opportunity to see. And thank you all for being a guest here on Open.
May I say that people who do get more information can go online to our website, which is nyadiff.org, nyadiff.org. And all the films that we just spoke about can be viewed online in the tri-state area. And so I invite you to watch those wonderful, wonderful films. And thank you to our filmmakers for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much. He stole a little bit of my thunder, but I will continue to tell them anyway. Again, if they do want more information, please visit the website again, nyadiff.org. And then also follow them on Twitter and also on Facebook at NYADIF. Now, I want to let you know that we come to the end of our show today. We want to thank all of our guests for joining us, and most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. And if you missed any part of the show, you can catch the Recablecast on Bronx Channel 67. If you have Verizon Files Channel 2133 or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. We also want to say a special thank you to all of our viewers who are watching on Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. And we encourage you, if you want a brand new episode, join my girl Rena Valentine on Friday as she brings you the best of arts and entertainment. Until then, I'm Daren Jaime here on Open Wednesday saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open.